Do you agree with the review that has been launched by the Home Secretary, which has been called for by the head of the Metropolitan Police and which the Prime Minister has endorsed? Do you think that's right?
Do I think it's right? I think it's absolutely right, but I think the sad thing is, and what's wrong with it, is the fact that it's only been done because these officers have taken this course of action. This isn't a new problem. NX121 is just basically the straw that's broken the camel's back, because I handed my blue card in 2005 over another controversial incident, as did most of the officers on the specialist firearms teams at the time. The commissioner turned up within hours and basically said, I'm going to get to the bottom of this, what do you need, da 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 da. We all went away rather naively because it was the first experience we'd had of this, and they did nothing. And here we are all these years later, and the problem hasn't just gone away, it's got 100 times worse. Officers that get involved in shootings doing exactly what they've been trained to do at the firearms training unit, being told that if you do something in good faith, you know, if you absolutely believe your life or someone else's life is in immediate danger and you take action, you know, you will be treated fairly, you know, and it's simply not happening. It's almost like the IOPC have an obsession with ticking the box to say, yes, we've convicted a police officer of murder, as if that's going to avoid criticism that they haven't. You know, I've said several times today, and it's something I think is probably a really good parallel. If a paramedic or a doctor make a genuine mistake, they diagnose something wrong and give the wrong treatment, they accidentally give the wrong drug, and somebody dies, they're not criminally prosecuted, they're re-educated. You know, they're made to go back through more training. They're mentored for a certain period of time. You know, all sorts of things that can be done to say, like, you know, let's hope this never happens again. But unless you're Harold Shipman, unless you're a nurse that kills an unknown quantity of babies, you're not prosecuted for murder. You know, and no police officer goes out deliberately intending to kill anybody. They pull the trigger, having made the decision at the very last fraction of a second that they have no other choice but to do just that.
There will be people watching this, though, who say that firearms officers are trained to a high standard, they should know the law, and therefore, if they are found not to have been within the law, they should be held to account.
Can I say that there isn't a single police officer that would disagree with what you've just said, all right? We know 100% that we are accountable. What we are not happy with is the fact that however much you acted in accordance with the law, it seems that the IOPC, and probably the CPS as well, are obsessed with proving, just once even, that a police officer has acted outside his honestly held belief that his life or someone else's life was in danger. And the length and duration of inquiries is obscene. You know, the IOPC, they turn up at the scene of a murder, and there's a police officer with a gun and a dead body, and they go, yeah, that was me, I shot him, here's my gun, here's my body-worn camera, let me give you a statement, yeah? There's nothing secret. It's not like they've been given a headless corpse in a building skip and being told you need to find out who this bloke is, who he hung around with, and who murdered him. It's given to them on a plate, and yet they take years to investigate it. How can that be right? I mean, police officers doing a murder case with a headless body would solve it in half the time. It's just wrong.
How difficult a balancing act is this for the head of the Metropolitan Police? On the one hand, he's trying to reassure the public, say the police is on their side and trustworthy, despite all of the various scandals that have gone on over the past decade. But on the other hand, trying to reassure his officers that he's got their back. How tricky a task is it now for
Well, I'll tell you what he could do to start with. When something like this happens, he can go and visit the parents and the family of the person that the police have shot, but perhaps he should go and speak to the officer that pulled the trigger and treat him as one of his staff and show that he has support for that officer and his family, because that hasn't happened.
So you don't believe that the Met Police Chief is doing a good enough job?
No, I don't. I'm sad to say. All of this is too little too late. Why has he waited until officers have surrendered their tickets in disgust before he suddenly decided, oh, we really ought to look at this problem? Because this problem's been around for a while. His predecessors have had it and they did nothing with it. This goes way back. This goes back to Sir John Stevens promising the world and doing nothing. These are volunteers. You know, we're very proud of the fact that the police officers in this country don't carry firearms. The Metropolitan Police in particular, all Dixon and Dock Green, you know, that fantastic image, completely false, but that image of an unarmed police force. You cannot have an unarmed police force unless you have armed officers that are prepared to protect those unarmed officers and members of the public. And if you treat them, excuse my French, like then you're going to have no protection at all.
What should happen now? Should the head of the Met Police resign, or should he continue? Do you think he's got the confidence of officers?
He needs to rebuild that confidence, and what he needs to do is, like I said, every officer that's seen those questions or seen those things will agree with them. He needs to prove that some of that's done. They're not going to be satisfied going, well, we'll have a review, because I know what happened. They'll do a review and then everyone will forget about it. And the officers go back to work, and someone else will get involved in the shooting through no fault of their own, and we're back in the barrel.